So I'm talking about why the Rastafarians and Hopis shall inherit their earth, because they have guns and they only use them to protect their land. Again, I would say with me, it's learning to have discernment and spiritual aikido. Since I don't have firearms, I don't condone them. But if I had, a family or something to protect, I might consider it a. I don't know. I really agree with what Albert Einstein says too. I think it can easily lead to violence. So it's an interesting philosophical thought. I'd like to hear what anyone else out there thinks about that. Um, so the key is non-reaction to tyrants. Okay, with all this surveillance, you're being watched all the time. I mean, the chances are that they know everything about me. Actually, even before I started making these videos, they understand that I preach harmlessness. That I might be possibly more moral than the average bear. Thus, I'm going to have more freedom. Mark Passio says there's a direct relationship between how much morality the society has and how much freedom you have, and I would say it correlates also individually. You're not going to have freedom individually unless you're moral either, of course. So you may feel the need to have guns to protect your children in this day and age. Although, like I say, I see it different philosophically, but women and property, there are those who feel that it makes sense to have guns to protect their family and their stuff and their crops. So, I don't really know the answer whether or not I would never tell someone you should get a gun, because I do think that could, lead into situations where harm could be done. So, on the other hand, the Rastafarians and the Hopis and the Hare Krishnas have been left alone by these Khazarian mafias. So I find that an interesting point. So, but the way that I've protected myself all these years, spiritual Aikido is for individual peace and collective. I mean, if you can actually not harm anyone else and know how to dodge the psychic attacks, um, being an ascetic, particularly in the richest town in the most expensive town in the country, actually can lead to hubris almost, but or just being in the socialist state that's overrun with insane, overpriced housing and a fake ass contest for it. All these factors could help have led to a feeling of personal freedom, or even force the issue. Okay, like if I couldn't move into a legal box and I'm not willing to go to this totally psychotic situation where I'm going to be totally abused mentally or emotionally in the second bardo by entities and these people's, and also the social workers or the these tweakers around these situations. You know, this town's fake ass housing crisis forced me to get real on these levels. So in the end, as I've said before, I often succeed in using all these stupid things, the devil, Satan and Lucifer and all their clubs do to try to subtly destroy me, to empower myself, to become better, to become more aware, more wise. And then on this level now, I'm attempting to take it full circle and teach you to be more wise. So freedom is real. It's a real possibility now, but it takes vigilant awareness. And, if you do have investments in property and, you didn't want to be a slave or pay their insane gouging property tax or whatever. I mean, you would probably have to be prepared to defend your rights. I'm not telling anyone to stop doing those things. I'm just saying that each individual has to draw the line in their own circumstance. What are you willing to put up with? How much tyranny are you willing to put up with? Because for me, a little bit, can be too much. So because I'm not here for that reason. I'm here for one to rock out music, and also to remember the future, as my last video was called, and to teach the awareness of how individually and collectively it's done. Because you know what? If everyone or majority is 65 or 95 or 87% of the people are just obeying the bullshit, towing the line, wage slaves, paying their property tax, and they're even truthers, and they smile at me, and they won't watch this, and they won't talk to me, they won't interact with me. How are we going to rebuild? How are we going to build a world that's respectful? I mean, this is how you got to see how entrenched the dark side is into daily life. Okay. That being said, if you were courageous and radical enough to go somewhere, and that was unclaimed land like the Blue Mountains of Jamaica, and build a community and have firearms, it's been proven that the police weren't stupid enough to go up there. So I'm not condoning this action. I'm not saying you should get firearms. I'm just using this video all my videos are intended to expand your awareness as food for thought, to feed your mind on a channel that would be cool with 3 million people subscribing and maybe watching this guy binge to death, but not be very okay with the man or person in the forest and who's not a slave to the system, who's not in the box, freely sharing gnosis or wisdom from their tent or the forest. Because how dare I do that? How dare I try to teach you something when I'm not involved as a slave or a tyrant? How dare I? I'm such an evil guy, man. No? It's because I don't believe in the pathetic concept of moral relativity, rather. And I do believe in moral reality. It's because reality is a moral thing to me that I am, to some degree, compared to others, safe. And that is the true definition of real safety, is faith in what's real. Not be life in dogma, not be life in Katma, not be life in inverted Luciferic concepts. If you can do whatever you want, whatever you can get away with. Guys, no, that's fake. A lot of my day I go by, the idea that I've got to treat people how I want to be treated. The golden rule, the real golden rule. I mean, I would encourage you to do that and try it for one day if you're still an asshole, and just see what it's like. I'm not saying I'm 100%. I'm not saying the coyote on my totem pole doesn't come down and try to bark at people during that day. But the more I do my work, the more I do my play, the more I share, the more I remember the future is a beautiful, respectful place, And whatever you got to do to protect yourself, to create that situation, to make the etheric, atmospheric, auric condition for that peace, okay. But like I say, if I have to buy land and move into a glass house because I can't convince the world to get together to stop this insane terraforming that makes it 20 degrees colder every day, then I just have to accept that. It's tantric ancient philosophy, acceptance. Now, I believe each person watching this, there's a possibility you have the courage to do this, to create sacred space that cannot be fucked with. You just have to reclaim that, whether you do it in your vehicle or in the forest or wherever. But remember, always come with respect and try to be harmless and decent to yourself and others. Remember, decency is one of those forgotten values that we got to bring back. If you enjoyed this and you haven't already, click the subscribe and click the notification for more, because YouTube loves to send this to no one. And they love to pretend like no one's watched it. So thanks, YouTube, for the wonderful public service of letting me share this with the world. And thanks to the nefarious dark side of it. You're so talented at pretending that no one watches me. I love everyone, and I really do believe there's a great, strong possibility that each and every one of you might just create a beautiful day today, even in this insane terraforming and temporal war. And I believe you can reclaim the power to have your lives and your space free from coercive harm from criminals. But it's going to take some work. Love you, family.